Is it true that the Chinese limited air traffic to other Chinese cities from Wuhan, or is that just a rumor?
No, the actual fact is the Chinese government cut down all travel from Wuhan to Beijing, but not the rest of China and the rest of the world. And I'm convinced that this was done deliberately, that the Chinese Communist Party leadership, which are not interested in the Chinese people at all, they're only interested in advancing their own interests in power. I think they made a calculation that, well, China's not the only one that's going to be infected by this disease, and they allowed travel from Wuhan around the world. I'm told reliably by U.S. officials that Wuhan was an international center for Chinese international workers, and many of them were coming home and going out of the country during that Lunar New Year period. Most of them went to Europe, and then from Europe they spread to the United States. The West Coast, first case on the West Coast was in Washington State. And now China refused to provide virus samples. Now the experts I talked to say that you really need to study to get the real understanding of the virus from the original samples. And China initially agreed in the Wuhan Institute of Virology to give samples to the U.S. and then reneged on it. So we never got samples from China. And we need those to really understand the origin of the virus.
Sure we do. That makes me ask this question. I know it's not politically correct to ask, but was this purposeful? Was it man-made? Was it accidental? Do you have any knowledge if the virus was manipulated in any way, or did it leak? What is it?
The short answer is we don't know because China has refused to provide information. I believe that the idea that it was naturally occurring and came from a wet market is a cover story to cover up some type of laboratory accident. Now, the scientists who've examined the genome say that it does not appear to have been manipulated in the laboratory. That said, there have been numerous studies, including by a woman named Shi Zhongli, who's considered the Batwoman of Wuhan. And in this study, she talked about how China had taken a coronavirus and manipulated it so that it would more easily infect humans. This was done for research to try and find a vacuum. Furthermore, Dr. Shi said that, in fact, a pandemic would likely come from China in the future, and she was absolutely on target. Now, she's been completely silenced, and the research laboratory where she works has also been very quiet. They have not provided any information. They used to interact a lot with American scientists. So the question of the origin is still very much out there, and I know the U.S. government is working on a major report which will identify the origins and the cover-up.